Today, I will be ranking the top meta units in Dragon Ball Legends PvP. Tomorrow, we will be getting a new reveal and stuff, so the newest unit we have in the game currently that is a premium unit is Super Baby 2. I've already placed the units in their individual tiers because I think it saves a lot of time recording, and it also helps me to make the list off camera, really think about my placements and then put them where I personally think is a good enough spot. If you want to make your own list, definitely check out the link in the description below, and if you're down there already, please like and subscribe to the video. It definitely helps out a lot and I appreciate any support that we get. Let's head straight into it. Okay, so these are my current rankings. Have a couple seconds to take a look at them just before I go and explain everything. The tiers, I will explain the tiers right now. Godly tiers, I'm going to reserve that from now on for units that are just above and beyond the game. If this was the same format I used for a couple of months ago, it would have been UI Goku, it would have been Beast, and it would have been Goku Bardock. Z plus tier, I think, are units that are currently the most common in the meta, or they just have such good individual kits that they deserve to be in Z plus tier no matter what the meta says. Z tier, pretty much the lower half of the top 10, including some honorable mentions that could make the top 10. Then we've got a tier below, which is honorable mentions for Z tier. I think these units are better than the top meta options, but I don't think they're necessarily better than anyone that's in Z tier currently. And then obviously we've got usable top meta options. These are units you see quite often. These are units I would say are pretty good in the current meta. Okay, first things first, let's start off with Godly tier, and the first unit you see there is Super 17. I do think he is a better unit than Ultra Gohan currently. There's a couple of reasons for this. I do think Super 17 is the best offensive unit in the current game. If you lose your first priority against this unit, your whole team will be having so much HP taken away from them. You're constantly being forced to switch, you're constantly giving him buffs, giving him cards, and giving him longer combos. Another reason why I think he's currently better than Gohan is just his teams in general. His teams are just a lot better than Gohan's. Even though Gohan is currently on the best team with him, which is Androids with Gohan leaded, he still is better on that team than Gohan. One of the main reasons of that is because he has way easier access to multiple Zenkai buffs. He's got Revival Cell, Android 21, Android 13, and Ape Vegeta, who are just able to go on any of his teams and Zenkai buff him, making him more powerful, making him do even more damage than he already does. He also has a lot of utility. One of the ones I really do like about him is the fact that if you go for a tap attack, a quick attack, or a tackle and stuff like that, he charges his own unique gauge rate by 50%, and he's also locking blue cards and strike cards. That means units with blast armor, they won't be able to attack you straight away if you go for a quick attack with a blast card. Units with blue cards like Gohan, units with blue cards like UGB that go through blast armor, once again, it's locked. You will not be able to do anything. You will have to end up forcing a unit to vanish, which is very, very good. And yeah, you're able to take priority from that alone, forcing the opponent to have to eat a combo. Another really big thing about him is his ultimate. Obviously, it hits really hard, and it hits even harder when the opponent's team has less allies on it. And on top of that, you're doing a lot of damage to the bench. So in certain cases, you may be getting destroyed early game, and then you're able to get one combo off and go off with the ultimate, and all of a sudden you've tied the ground. Like it's level all of a sudden. Units are all the same HP just off of one combo and one ultimate. That is why I think he's better than Gohan individually for me personally. Now, Gohan. There are a couple of things he does better than 17. One of them being is, rather than being the strongest, most offensive unit in the game, I do think this guy is a mixture of the best field presence unit as well as the best defensive unit. Field presence wise, you really cannot attack this guy comfortably from any range. Mid-range, long range, close range, he's got a counter for everything. If you end up forcing this guy to get PV, he will AoE green card you and you're locked in eating another combo. Defensively, not on about his actual individual tanking, even though he can tank quite well. I just think that being able to stop combos constantly, being able to, just force other players to play how you want to play is very ridiculous. One of the things I noticed straight away using this guy is when he was on my team and I was able to have access to blast armor cancels. It was so ridiculous. That's one of the things I found more broken to him, because if you don't have him, you do not have access to that, and I find that very, very ridiculous. It punishes passive play, but it only punishes passive playing players that don't have Gohan. As soon as you use that blast armor, you're forcing the opponent to have to move if you don't have any blast cards, or if they've already initiated a strike, you go for that card, you're forcing them to stop midway, and all of a sudden you have control of the battlefield once again. Damage wise, he's also pretty cracked. On hybrids, he does very, very good damage. Both ultimates hit really hard, and that's really it. In my opinion, I do think he is second to 17 because 17 is also currently the only unit in the game that can really do harm to Gohan that isn't Gohan. So that's how my godly tier is looking. 1, 17, 2, Ultra Gohan. Moving over to Z plus tier. Now, there's a lot of units that just you would have never expected to be in this tier before or be ranked this high, and currently is. I'll go over those units specifically. So let's head straight into it. Kid Goku. Why is he number 3 on my list? He's currently number 3 on my list because I personally think he is the best tank in the game. Not just me personally saying it, a lot of people are saying it. We've got other good tanks in the game like Jiren, but Goku does it better and to both disadvantage and advantage characters. When he swaps into battlefield, he can tank a Gohan combo because he does have defensive neutral. Another thing is he is on a GT team where most of the Z abilities on GT are defensive Z abilities. You've got Bulla, double defense. You've got himself, double defense. Super Baby 2, double defense. And then you've got G4 giving him double defense as well. With most of the bench also being double defense, this guy on a GT team just tanks extremely, extremely well. Another reason why I've got him top 3, he's arguably one of the best counters to 17 right now. He's able to do quite a lot of damage to him. He's able to wall him off effortlessly in most cases. I think this guy definitely needs more stars, and that's the same with every single defense type unit. If you really want them to flourish, they will need stars because their stats are naturally a lot lower than any offensive units. So I think once you see like higher stars on him, or when you face higher star units, you will see how good this Goku unit is. And since it's a meta tier list, I will mention this. His teams are all very meta. You've got GT, Saiyans, Sunfam, or you can just throw him leader anywhere else. He's doing very well in any of those options. That is why he's number 3 in the game for me. Top of Z plus tier, Kid Goku. This is where the list I would say gets a bit strange, but at the same time it doesn't. LF Cell, currently one of the best counters to Gohan as well, because you know he's purple, he's on the Android team, he's got good cover from 17 and Revival Cell. Just in general, there really isn't any downsides to him. If you kill him early, you will have to eat that AoE damage, you will be locked in, you will have no vanish in some cases. So that means a unit like Super 17 is next to come into the field and is able to do anything to you. You're just a sitting duck at that point. Now, offensively as well, very good offensive unit, especially range type, blast based teams. He does very well on androids. His green card's really good. His blue card has a chance of fainting you, which is definitely very meta. Other than that, I think he's just pretty much risen through the ranks a lot since UI's release, mainly because UI's kind of been shut out a lot, and androids have just been getting so much value and so much value recently that a lot of the android units that were really not in any lists are now making their way up into the top spots, and he's not an exception. Moving on to Revival Cell, probably the only unit where he's so good and so shit at the same time. His defenses, they're non-existent, especially pre-revival. I guess he fulfills his values on his team where he is just reviving, and he does have access to the same Zenkai buffs that 17 has. But in my opinion, I don't think this guy will stay in these places, these rankings for a very long time. I do think the meta itself is favoring him so much. There really isn't much blue, and in the best team in the game right now being red, red, green with Gohan leader slotted on androids, he doesn't really have to face much blue units or any blue units, so his damage is pretty good. I will give him that. Triple Zenkai buffed, he's got good access equips, so he is doing good damage in general. But yeah, the defenses, if his defenses were actually good, I probably could see an argument for him being higher than this Cell or even this Goku. But his defenses are just so bad that any higher than this, and it will be wrong in my opinion, just straight up wrong. Moving on to Beast Gohan, I know hybrids gained some value with the release of Ultra Gohan, but this guy is suffering from the same fate that Evo Ken suffered from when Ultra has joined his team. And rather than giving this guy so much value where you could see this guy top 3, top 2, he's actually lost value. The reason I say he's lost value is because the big 2 units in the game right now are Super 17 and Gohan, and they just shut him out completely in most cases. Super 17 locking strikes and blue cards, really isn't helpful against a unit that wants to do strikes and blue cards. Gohan's counters being against strikes and blue cards also isn't great for him, on top of the fact that he has got that blast armor break cards happening against him. His blast armor isn't as effective as it once was. In my opinion, still a very good unit individually. If I was to put just individual list, not to think about metas or anything, he would definitely be higher than the likes of Cell and Revival Cell. But currently with the meta, his team is good, but he's definitely taken a back seat than what he would have done a couple months ago. Now, a unit that everyone wanted countered, a unit everyone wanted gone, he's been countered. Now the counter needs countering, and it's just a constant endless cycle of, oh, now you have to counter this unit, now you have to counter the counter. UI Goku, individually, absolutely ridiculous. He can still pop off in a meta that's very red heavy. You're seeing Pan, Beast, Revival Cell, Super 17 every game, and some instances you are seeing UI Goku and he is able to do quite well. I think the only downside to this guy is just Super 17 existing, all these red units existing, because nowadays he really hasn't got much defenses against those units. He's pretty solid individually, like I said. He's got that lock-in to snipe Cells, sniping Bulla, sniping Jirans, a lot of the purple units that are making their way up in the meta. I do still think he's definitely one of the best units in the game, but once again, the meta is definitely not giving him as much gas. Obviously, Saiyans has fallen off a little bit, Sunfounder has fallen off a little bit in my opinion. But other than that, pretty solid unit, I would say. Definitely worthy of being a Z+ tier. Okay, so we've gotten the two bigger tiers out of the way, so I'm not going to give as much time to the last three tiers just because the video will be way too long. Now, Z tier, we've got Jiren at the beginning. Definitely gained some value since UI Goku has taken a little bit of a backseat in the current meta. Powerful opponent or leader slot on androids. He's one of the tanky units in the game. Also does quite a lot of damage in general. I do think that's one thing people forget about him. He's not just an incredible tank. His damage is very good. His combo, his ability to create combos is also very good with the green card he does have. In my opinion, definitely one of the top units in the game right now, and you can leader slot him, like I said, on a lot of the top teams, and you will have a good counter to Ultra Gohan, which is definitely valuable in itself. Now we have Bulla and Vegeta. I do think that are currently the best support unit in the game, not with the support they're giving. If we're talking about just how much percentage support they're giving, it's obviously Pan, but I do think they're tankier than Pan. They're doing more damage than Pan. Their disrupt is a little bit better than Pan's, and just in general, what they're giving as a support unit to me is more value than what Pan is giving. They are also purple, so they are countering out Gohan. They throw rocks on their blast cards, so you can actually initiate against 17 with blast cards from long range without him countering it, because he cannot absorb rocks. He can only absorb key-based attacks. Their ultimate does a decent amount of damage, and it also has the chance to feint, so that's quite valuable. I have feinted 17, I have feinted Gohan, and that has cost me to win the game. In general, I think they are a very good unit. Just overall, good support, good damage, good defense, and they're providing good value to the team. So that is why I think they're Z tier, and I'm pretty happy putting them in this spot. Moving on, we've got G4. I think a lot of the units can just like move around here. You can put Goku Bardock above G4 if you want. You can put Baby above all of them. But for me, with how the meta is set up right now, if I'm taking teams and units in consideration, I'm gonna have G4 above these guys here. Couple reasons why. Obviously, his team is very good. GT is a very good team. I personally have been using Bulla, Super 17, and Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta, with a Zenkai buff being Super Saiyan 4 Goku. He's doing very good blast damage, he's doing very good damage in general. His tanking isn't horrible, especially his first 80% damage cut, which is a lot higher than some of these newer defense units have. I think another big thing that I like about him is we're currently in a very passive / stalling meta. So that means we are going to time accounts a lot more than we would have a couple of seasons ago, a couple of metas ago. So to add that point of being a passive meta to being going to time accounts, we're seeing a lot of revival units. I'm seeing Pycon Gogetas, I'm seeing Orange Piccolos, and of course we're seeing revival cells. Very easy to pop revival cells first life. I personally, if I'm using G4, I'll just throw the rush out. They're forced to throw in cell. I'll be getting 4 Dragon Balls back, I'll be getting 50% damage back, and with Gogeta having 2 ultimates, it's pretty much free damage. Having a second rush, free damage. When you go to time accounts and you've rushed twice, you've used 2 ultimates or you've used 1 ultimate, you're gonna win on damage. So for me, I think Currently G4 is doing quite well. His teams are also very good, so I'm definitely putting him in Z tier for now. Goku Bardock, definitely a unit that's suffered this current meta. I think they could definitely go back up, but they're very much being shut out by the top 2 units. Obviously Gohan, he's obliterating the blue side, he's obliterating the green side. He's countering them, he can counter their AoE green with their blue. They want to do strike cards, they've got a melee based blue card. If he has his gauge up, they're forced to stop the combo or swap out to another unit. 17 is affecting them because if 17 goes for tap attack, he's able to just lock their cards, force them to vanish. You know, just basically, these top 2 units are forcing Goku Bardock to have to play around them rather than Goku Bardock playing how they want to play. And I think that's definitely shown in the current meta. I think a lot of people have dropped them a lot of ranks, and I'm no exception to that. Okay, last person in Z tier is going to be Super Baby 2. He's a very good unit individually, very good unit, and unfortunately for him, you know, being yellow in this current meta definitely has its effects. If he was any other color, I would say definitely be higher than G4, definitely be higher than Jiren, definitely be higher than Bulla, potentially higher than Omen Goku, and potentially higher than Beast. I have seen glimpses of this guy doing very well against me, doing very well in showcases I've seen or clips that I've been tagged in. I've seen him doing quite well, especially at higher stars. This next meta could shift quite a lot for all we know. We don't know what we're getting tomorrow when they reveal. That new unit could definitely give a lot of value to Super Baby 2. Obviously, he's part of the same campaign, so I'm going to assume they kind of want you to use 2 units together. But other than that, GT is a top team. He's very good on Saiyans as well. And if he's doing good in a meta where a lot of red units that can just kill any yellow, and he is yellow and is able to do quite well, I would definitely put him in Z tier off that fact alone. Alright, now we're getting to the end of these lists, so I'm just going to quickly, very quickly give a couple points to each character just to wrap up the video and round it out. MVP 17, very good. I know the reason he's not in Z tier right now with his teams being so high up is he's simply blue. He's not the tankiest unit like he was like when he first dropped. He obviously has aged a bit, he's over a year old. Damage numbers have increased over time, and so they will be doing more damage to him. Other than that, I think he's very good, provides a lot of value to all of his teams, especially that androids with Jiren leaded, you are giving a lot of defenses to Jiren. So I would say he's still the backbone. I'm going to put that in quotes because you don't see him too often, but if you're running a pure android team, I think he is the backbone of the team still. And if it's the best team in the game, he's going to need some value. I don't think he deserves to be as low as usable top meta options, which isn't low to be honest, but I do think that he can be argued as Z tier. Okay, Pycon and Gogeta, Revival Gogeta, Super Gogeta, LL, whatever you want to call them. I do think they're very good. Obviously, Revival is definitely quite a lot of value. They are providing green cards for units like Ultra Gohan if you do end up leadering them. Super 17 if you're running them on fusions like I'm doing. I have noticed that on fusions specifically, which is a team I do tend to see them being used more than. A lot of their kit is locked to movies, so if you think about it, if you put them on fusions, they are a worse unit. But not even that, I feel like they aren't really doing a crazy amount like I'd expect. Kind of like how I'd wanted. I would have liked more sub count reduction on rising rushes, ultimates, blue cards. I don't think 2 counts is enough in my opinion, should have been 5. It only looks good if you're using units like 17 that have their own individual sub count down for those types of attacks. Then you add their sub count down, it does make a difference. But I think as a revival unit, the whole point of you being a revival unit is to be that safety net against rushes. And I don't know if people will agree with me, but I think every revival unit needs minus 10 sub counts. I feel like that's really the best thing to do for every revival unit. Just minus 10 sub counts when someone rushes. I think that's pretty much why we even use revival units, is because of rush. But individually, still a very good unit. I think the Super Gogeta side is still very good, but I've come to terms, once I've turned into Super Gogeta and let's say I'm in a combo, they're not really providing much. There isn't that much disrupt, you know. They're still a defensive unit, they're still a defense type. Kind of would like to see them have a separate gauge. Maybe it's one similar to Orange Piccolo's, but other than that, I do think they're still good. I don't think they're necessarily Z tier, so I am putting them in this tier, but I do think they're very, very good in the current meta. Now, a unit that's been put on top 10s around the globe, top 10s that I've seen, I get it, on their 4 times Zenkai buff team where they're getting double support. They do a lot of damage, but I don't think that team alone holds a candle to any top teams in the game right now. The unit individually has some very nice aspects, and as you can see, giving them more Zenkai buffs, giving them some support, they are able to do quite well. If the next unit that drops benefits them directly, aka an LOE buff, I could see them go to Z tier. That is why I've got them in HM. I do think they're solid enough to deal with the two colors that are number 1 and 2, but the lengths you have to go to 4 times Zenkai buff them, to put them with old units that you really wouldn't use normally, like First Form Freezer, he's not really providing much. The team's very 1v3. It does work, and I have myself done some things with that team where I've said, wow, this is pretty good. But I've had to constantly play around a lot of the newer gauges, a lot of the newer units, and that's why I'm not gonna be comfortable putting them in Z tier. Like I said, if they get a buff this week, I can put them higher, but for now, honorable mentions, I'm gonna give them their clout, their gas, but that's all they're getting from me. Okay, individually, I don't think Pan's very good, but red, green, buffing up the best units in the game, she still does that. She's one of those generational support units that just stand the test of time. Her disrupt's still very good, main ability is very good, green card's very good. The only things I would say are very much lacking from her is damage and tanking. She doesn't really do that too well. Her tanking is okay because she does have that sub count up on the opponent, and then she also takes key. So eventually your opponent will have to stop the combo, but individually her tanking isn't the craziest. I do think she's still just pretty much being held by a thread by being on hybrids, being that HP bench that you can just bring into battle, having triple Zenkai buffs now because that's the red, green hybrids team I'm seeing, and obviously being able to boost Ultra Gohan even more is definitely quite valuable. Now, the top meta options, I'm gonna give it to UGB. Actually, I'm gonna put 17 ahead here, and that's probably gonna be the order. 17 on androids recently, I've been using him, I've been playing against him. He's pretty tanky, does quite well, has a very good green card where it just nullifies endurance anyway, so if you end up catching Gohan using the sidestep and you go for the blue card, you can nullify endurance without having to worry about it. I've done it plenty of times myself. Definitely a unit when we talk about well aging / good aging units in the game, he kind of just doesn't get the mention that I think he should get, so I'm giving him that in this video. I do think he's a top meta option right now. I'm using him on an androids team with Revival Cell, Super 17, and him. He's getting Zenkai buffed, he's pretty tanky, and with MVP 17 he's a lot tankier obviously. Gogeta Blue, been using him on Fusion Warriors, double Zenkai buffed, pretty good. You know, a lot of blast based units in the meta, so you are able to use his counter quite easily. Only issue obviously being strike based, Gohan kind of stops you, 17 kind of stops you, but his damage honestly has been definitely quite good. Obviously being purple, less yellows in the meta, being able to counter out Gohan is definitely quite valuable. Definitely a top option to use if you have him. I'd definitely say give him a go. Very good unit to use, and I do think he's still pretty solid to this day. Definitely the best aging Ultra we've had so far. Another Ultra, his counterpart, Vegito Blue, very good unit. Damage wise still does quite well. I do think he's very one-dimensional with just wanting to do strike cards and then counter eventually. His rush, same with UGB, they can't rush as freely as they could back then because Kid Goku exists. He takes away those buffs he gets on rush, and not only that, he is, I would say, a little bit more of just a strike oriented unit. At least with UGB you can argue that he's stopping blast cards by filling that gauge and countering, but with UVB he only has his one green counter, and then on top of that he's extremely strike based. He wants to go through blast armor, he wants to go through blast cards. With Gohan it's a little bit harder. He wants to land more strike cards. With Gohan and 17 it's a little bit harder. Still very effective, I would say, especially on the Fusion Warrior team. I've seen a lot of clips of him just doing crazy good damage to this day. Very good Ultra still to use, and very good meta option. Orange Piccolo, you know, he's a revival unit on movies. I've seen him being used quite a lot. I've seen against him. Two things I'll touch upon right now for him is one of the aspects I like is once he's revived, his gauge fills quite quick. So you have an option of either filling his gauge and having to lose a Dragon Ball, lose your cards, stop your combo, which is quite good in today's meta where units like 17 can combo for quite a long time, or you will have to force your opponent to use their rush, which then means you will have your least valuable unit on the team be rushed and you get to keep, I don't know, whoever you're using alongside Piccolo. So that's definitely a very good aspect. Now that's going to be it for the video. Do you agree with this list? What are your top 10 lists? Let me know down below. Hope you guys enjoyed. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.